Hey, you're listening to the Smoke Meat Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Pittman. Today we've got an awesome guest. We got Mr. Rich Emberlin. You may know Rich from the Real Housewives of Dallas or from Dallas SWAT. He is a 30-year veteran of the Dallas Police Department, retired now, but still staying nice and busy. Was great enough to come on and talk to me for a long time. Great guy. We're going to go on ahead and get this beast kicked off here on Smoked Meat.
Hey, how you doing today, Rich?
Real good. It's good to hear from you.
You too, man. I've been looking forward to this. You know, we big fan. You know, support my law enforcement wholeheartedly.
Well, I love me some EMTs and firefighters.
Yeah.
I think I stood in the wrong line when I got hired. I stood in the police line because it was shorter, but I probably should have stood in your line. Until I went into the first fire and got the hell scared out of me.
It'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So had to you, sir.
I like to tell everybody a line I heard on, I think it was Jarhead. I tell them I got lost on the way to college.
I tell everybody I went to college for 7 years, but I'm still not a doctor. I just have a bachelor's in business administration.
Outstanding. But yeah, you know, when I talked to you, I told you I've been kind of rewatching some Dallas SWAT. I said, I'm going to give this a shot, and you know, you were gracious enough to contact me back, and that's really cool because a lot of people want, for every 100 emails, it's crickets.
No, it's my pleasure, and sometimes I don't ever look to watch myself. But I became after I left SWAT, I went to a criminal intelligence, dignitary protection. I worked with the United States Secret Service as a liaison, and a guy named Dwayne Thompson, who was on First 48, came to my unit, and I'd never watched First 48 in my life. And people would run up to him all the time, the way they used to run up to me when I was on Dallas SWAT, want to take pictures and stuff. And I'm like, "Are you on First 48?" He goes, "Yeah." It's kind of embarrassing, and I started binge watching that, and I still watch it.
Yeah.
But if I'm watching it on Crime Investigation Network and I fall asleep, I'll wake up to my own voice, and I'm like, "Why am I hearing my own voice?" And it'll be old Dallas SWATs on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
my wife.
See why, and I do not think I'm an actor, but I can see why actors go, "Damn, I used to look young."
Oh man, I was an extra on the movie Fled years ago.
Really?
Yeah, and I can look at the background and see myself, and I'm like, who in the hell is that? It's not me anymore. He has hair.
I had brown hair.
Yeah, no, it's flesh colored. I tell them I've got a nullet. It's part business. MC businesses out of business in the front. Back.
Yeah, that's funny.
Oh yeah.
No, but I had a good time doing this. Nobody wanted to do it in the beginning, and the guy that created that show, it wasn't A&E and it wasn't Granada Television. The homicide commander, a guy named Jesse Reyes, came over to SWAT, and they just assigned him over there. And he's like, "Oh great, I got to put up with these prima donna assholes." And he got over there and found out we were pretty fun guys. And we worked really hard, and we always showed up on time, and we worked real hard in our briefings to save everybody we could, even suspects. And he called A&E and said, "You need to do a show on the SWAT team." And that's how that show got started. And these producers came down, 6 or 8 of them, and they were trying to get the 32 of us to get on camera, and nobody would do it. And he finally came up to me, he goes, "Rich, will you please? I got these people down here. They're subcontractors, and they're going to lose their jobs. I got them down here to do a show." I said, "Okay, where's one of them at?" And he brought this guy named Matt Braverman over of Braverman Productions. And he said, "What's your story?" I go, "You don't want to do a story on me." I said, "I just got divorced. Y'all videotaped it. I shot somebody last week. I'm having to deal with that. It was a less lethal deal, but still, I had to deal with that. I go, I'm fighting for custody for my child. I broke up with my girlfriend in front of her friends. I'm trying to get her back." I said, "I'm a loser." And he said, just like they do in Seinfeld, "That's an episode." I said, "All right."
I actually watched that one today.
So that was the first episode, me trying to get my girlfriend back and dealing with shooting that dude, which, like I said, it was a guy murdered his neighbor, but I shot him with a 40 millimeter less lethal round.
Yeah.
And it was a good episode. Just made me, I was dating a girl who was part of the Texas Ballet. And so they showed all the tough guys going to a SWAT competition, which is what I normally do, and me going to Swan Lake. So,
Yeah, I could tell that was kind of killing you just a little bit. I understand.
That show used to come on Thursday nights, and on Friday I hated going to work because the very first episode, I went to the salon, and I don't know if you ever saw this. I said, "Hey, I'm here to get my hair cut by Janine. Where's she at?" She goes, "She's over there." And I walked off, and I didn't know the hostess lady, or whatever you call them, said, "That's Rich. He comes and helps Janine with the salon because she owned it." And she goes, "He's our hottie from Swatty."
Oh,
and I didn't know she
hell.
had said that till it aired. And I showed up on that first day after the very first episode, went into the weight room, caught all kinds of hell, went back into the showers. First, I had to sit down on the toilet. There's always some good art on the walls, and it says,
Of
"The
course.
hottie from Swatty sits on this potty." And I went to the shower, and it said, "The hottie from Swatty." This one was laminated, of course. "The hottie from Swatty washes his loins in the shower." And I'm like, oh my God. I walked out in the break room, and there was a blown up blog thing that said, "Rich Emberlin, you are gorgeous." And it went on about what a great dad I was and a great father, and you're a good man. And then it said, "Even though I'm gay, and I know you're not, I think this is great." And I'm not anti-gay at all. And they thought it was going to hurt my feelings. And I was like, hey, that's a compliment coming from anybody. But if you tear it down, there's going to be 2 up the next day.
Oh, yeah, big time. And, I thought I had a jacked up nickname. You got me beat.
I've been called Hottie from Swatty for 14 years.
Nice.
It's crazy.
Yeah, one of my emails is actually, we did a ADLS class, Advanced Disaster Life Support, and it came for the big practical field exercise, and I'm just like you play.
Sure.
So I came out there, I had on boots, I had on my, black BDU pants, t-shirt, booty hat, and I put my vest on. It wasn't a ballistic vest, just an over vest with all the pouches on.
Sure.
And like I say, I'm a big dude, and the vest made me even thicker. Yeah. And my buddy said, "You look like a tactical gorilla." And that wound up being my nickname through the rest of school.
And if you protest, it'll get worse.
Big time. They could be from Swatty. So,
well, we had a guy, what an FNG is.
Mm-hmm.
Effing new guy. And this guy showed up. His name's Keith, and I love Keith. And Keith had a jacked up haircut, and everybody was making fun of him, but he is a switched on operator. And Mike Keating is our guy who gives everybody their nicknames. And he goes, "That dude is ugly. He's not even an FNG. He's Fung. He's F'd up new guy." So he was Fung for 20 years.
That is amazing.
And it just sticks, because if you say, "Quit calling me Fung," they'll call you Fung forever.
Yeah. And the weird part is, when you don't get a nickname, it kind of hurts a little bit sometimes.
You're like, okay. And I tell people all the time, they go, "Rich, I know you're messing with me, and you wouldn't mess with me if you didn't love me." I go, "No, if I didn't like you, I'd still mess with you. So don't get too comfortable, dude."
Yeah, I just get a little bit meaner if I don't like you.
Exactly. I don't call people names. I never called Fung. I always called him Keith. But man, some of them are brutal.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. But
people will ask me about SWAT guys and cops, and they'll go, "Hey, do you know Todd Wellhouse?" And I'm like, "What's his nickname?" "Freaky." I go, "Of course I do." I just never called him Todd. Because he got up and sang Super Freak in the gym one time, and he became Freak.
Guy on fire who, I don't know if you ever saw that show, Viva La Bam.
Yeah.
Yeah. This guy, when he would get aggravated, he would sound exactly like Don Vito. You couldn't understand shit he said. He went from being afraid to Don Vito overnight. We would intentionally get him aggravated just to hear him do it. It was so great. You could close your eyes and it felt like you were on the show.
There were some people that had nicknames we had 2 units, A and E, which had nothing to do with the network we were on, because when SWAT first started, there was B, C, and D units. And there were some nicknames that were very inappropriate. And the guy, I won't even say his name because he might hear this, but he walked out of the detail room. He was in the other unit, and I called him by the nickname that I thought he went by, which was very inappropriate. And they're like, dude, we don't ever tell him that to his face. And I go, sorry. He goes,
Yeah, I know a
told
couple
you
of
that.
those.
And I go, I don't know the guy.
Yeah, I know a few of those.
Yeah, it's like, not to his face.
And I'm the guy that will do it to their face because I have no filters at all.
I don't. I used to be. You won't believe this, and people that I talk to don't believe this. I used to be the shyest kid in high school, but go do some reality TV, and your skin gets so thick. There's nothing you can say to me that'll hurt my feelings. Nothing.
Yeah. And don't try and embarrass
me. I was teaching one time, and I had a female of this thing. We were just doing a training exercise on, how to answer calls and not get killed. And she was walking next to me, and the guys were razzing me. I go, well, you're not razzing me about anything about being on TV. She goes, I never watched that stupid show at all. And I went, okay, now that kind of hurt.
No, you got to be nice.
You're a mean girl.
So during your simulation, just be ready.
No. She was pretty sharp, which is probably why she didn't watch it. It was, you know what? The show was good for this reason. We caught a lot of hell at work with our peers, but when people would see us out at restaurants, they knew what special weapons and tactics stood for. And they saw our briefings and how much we tried to save everybody's life and how much we cared. And it was the best recruiting tool in the history of the department. People came from all over the country.
I bet everybody that came wanted to be immediately SWAT.
Well, that's what irritated the personnel people. They would always say, you guys, we've got 3,600 people in this department, 32 slots in SWAT, and it's a miracle to even get over there. And everybody comes in and says, I want to go straight to SWAT. Oh, we know you came from Michigan, but that's not going to happen. I had to serve my time. I had to go to patrol. I was a field training officer. I did 5 years in patrol, and then I went to narcotics. It was dangerous as hell. Yeah. But I always brought the SWAT guys great warrants, and they remembered me when they had an opening. And that's the only reason I tell everybody it's not kissing ass. It's just good relationships.
Your relationships are everything. Reputation, I tell all the young guys, you protect that above all else because it's going to follow you forever.
And everybody can spot a kiss ass a mile away.
Yeah.
And I ended up working in the office of Chief of Police for Chief Brown, who's now the superintendent in Chicago. And why he took that job, I'll never know. But he picked me because he was my sergeant in SWAT. And he's always been Sarge, Lieutenant, or Chief. I've never called him by his first name, which is David. But he just remembered me and picked me to go to criminal. I always wanted to go to criminal intelligence, dignitary protection, but they would have one opening and 500 people would apply. And I went, it's not even they already know who they're going to take. And he called me one day after about 17 years in SWAT and said, Rich, you're going to criminal intelligence, dignitary protection. I'm like, really? He said, yes. And I went over there and I told him after about a couple of weeks, because we did his detail too. I said, thank you so much, Chief. I said, this is the best job in the world. And I said, I can't believe how great this job is. And you get to meet, I met 8 presidents, past and current, congressmen, judges, and got to meet some neat people. And I knew Chris Kyle, the Navy sniper who got murdered, and he made me the point of contact with the Navy SEAL Team 6 when they did their training exercises in Dallas. I've never been in the military. I never knew anybody in the Navy. He just thought I did. An Air Force brat, and Air Force brats don't see people in the Navy.
Yeah.
So I got to meet, the SEAL Team 6 guys, and they're dear friends of mine, one squadron of them. And I actually introduced one to his wife here in Dallas, so he'll probably hate me here in a couple of years. But anyway, he likes me now.
Yeah.
But I had some
Yeah.
pretty cool experiences by doing
Yeah,
that.
I imagine that was a little bit of pressure doing presidential protection. Dallas, really?
You have no idea. It was an unspoken rule: do not run that motorcade down Dealey Plaza where Kennedy got shot.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just that. I mean, even if it was the quickest route, no, we're not doing that. And
Yeah, no pressure.
No, it was easy to avoid. Trust me, we all knew. But that was a fun job. But for say just a 2-hour presidential visit, we would do 2 months worth of work.
Yeah, I mean,
Running
people don't
routes,
understand what goes
alternate
into that.
routes, making sure there was a blood, the president's blood type at the hospital, routes to the hospital, routes to safe houses, tax on the motorcade, and then game day was easy.
Yeah.
But if you're leading a motorcade and like a former president comes and you're in like the lead car with an agent and you've got, say, who knows, let's say Barack Obama or Bill Clinton behind you, and then a follow-up car, and you're driving and you're leading and you don't have a bunch of motorcycles in front of you because they're not active presidents, you can forget how to drive to your house. It's so nerve-wracking, and I don't get racked that much.
Yeah. Oh man. But yeah, it's funny. People, like I said, they see the shows and they see different movies and stuff, and they think, okay, we're called in. Boom, here we go. We got this, and here's how we're going to do it. It takes 3 minutes to plan.
No.
And it's not even close to that.
Yeah, our warrants now, we used to do about 10 a day, but now, and we got shot at a lot and we shot a lot of people. Knock on wood, we haven't had any guys killed in our unit. We've had them shot for sure. But it's now, if narcotics hits us up for a warrant, unless it's a hostage rescue or something like that, we immediately go. But if it's a warrant, they have to give us 24 hours notice. I fly over it in a helicopter and videotape it. We do drive-bys. We take pictures. We gather intel. We have a pre-brief, a pre-brief, and then a briefing, and then we go hit it.
Yeah.
Because it's just safer that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody talks about, I want to train with ammunition. That's somebody that's never been hit with a bullet made out of lipstick.
Exactly. I had my pinky broken that was holding onto a pistol by a simulation round, and I've dug them out of my arms because they'll make us wear just T-shirts so we can feel the pain.
Yeah.
And it'll get you some religion, because if you have a bunch of gear on, you're a real tough guy. But when you're going to get that sting, now we always wore full facial gear, because you don't want to lose an eye. But you can get your sinuses broken. I know a guy that got a testicle lost. I mean, I would stuff a T-shirt down my pants. I'd always wear a mask because you could get hurt by that stuff.
Yeah, I know. Whenever I went through SWAT school, we used competition grade air.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned real fast. I can get skinny real quick. I can hide behind a stop sign if it's flying at me. We were practicing walking in the stack. Had a shield in front. When our instructor would come up, am I supposed to drop? Cool, not a problem. I didn't drop quite fast enough one time, and he stitched me right across my eyes with that thing. And I learned real quick, we're not doing this.
Well, and it's a good training tool.
Yeah. And by the time it was over, man, I looked like a plucked chicken. I just had little whelps all over me from those things. But I learned. I shot my best friend in the chest from about 8 feet away with one. Because we were hunkered down in the room. We were pinned down. Did exercise. And he came in to tell us and didn't announce himself. So, well, here you go.
Took a little revenge on him.
Yeah.
I played the bad guy one time in a simunition exercise with just a T-shirt on, and I got the hell shot out of me. And I got home from work. We worked 6 to 2, so I went to the pool at my apartment complex. and I looked like I had some kind of disease. I had red dots all over my chest. And everybody in the pool was looking at me like, man, that guy's got ringworm or something.
And I love playing the bad guy.
Yeah,
That
I do
is,
too. You learn a lot playing a bad guy. You learn
yeah.
to think
And
like a bad guy.
we were doing the police academy in Augusta, and one of the little areas that they had to clear, you went in the door opened up it to the inside, and it had about a foot of dead space behind it at the wall, and nobody was checking that. Guess where my big ass went? I went right behind that door.
Yep.
Everybody that came through there, boom, but they learned real quick.
Yeah, when I go through a door, I smash that doorknob into the wall to crush
Yeah.
anybody behind it, even on a real operation, because I've seen crackheads get behind doors and it doesn't even touch them.
Yeah. Oh, a crackhead can get anywhere.
Yeah, they can.
And never underestimate the speed of a crackhead on foot.
He's got more reason to run than you have to catch him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, being a bad guy, playing a bad guy, it really does give you a different perspective, and feeling a little pain compliance, smartens people up. When it comes to, hey man, I could really get hurt doing this.
Yeah. One thing I hate, I love action movies. Don't get me wrong, but all these young guys are seeing these. Man, it'd be cool to get shot at. That's somebody that hadn't been shot at.
No.
There's nothing cool about it at all.
Or worse, it'd be cool to shoot somebody.
Yeah, negative Ghost Rider.
I made it 19.5 years before I ever killed anybody. And although I was right as rain, I killed a hostage taker that had killed his son in front of me on a hostage deal. And I call it that guy syndrome. You become that guy. You feel like the next day you walk back into work, everybody's looking at you like, there he is. I wonder if he did everything right. And I did. It just, if you want to kill your hostage, you're going to. And our commanders on that deal wouldn't let us do a lot of things that probably could have saved that young child's life. But who thinks the guy's going to kill his 3.5-year-old namesake? But you're that guy until the next guy shoots somebody, and then they could be that guy. But it's not fun at all, and people think it's cool. And I'm sure I'll go out and do talks to young kids, I always say 5 to 85. If you're giving a speech about what you do for a living, when you open it up for Q&A, about the third question is, have you ever killed anybody? And I've gotten to a point where I just say no, because I don't want to deal with the aftermath. But when you say yes, they're like, really? What's it like? And I go, it's awful. Even if you're right, it's awful. We don't want to kill people,
Yeah, we're not built for that.
No, and you grow up, with the whole thou shalt not kill thing. But I had a Navy SEAL tell me, he goes, the shootings that you've been in, I've been involved in too, like that. He goes, do they bother you? I go, yeah, I was right as rain. He goes, there's a part, I can't remember where it's at in the Bible. I'm not ultra religious, but I had to say it to a guy today who was upset about having to kill somebody. And I said, it says in the Bible, thou shalt not murder. That's the actual, deal there. But there's another part in the Bible that says, you shall obey the law or you shall be slain by the law. Mm-hmm. And he pointed that out to me, and I went, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know what passage it is. I wish I could quote it, but that made me feel better. But I mean, I didn't feel bad about doing it. I just felt bad the whole thing happened.
Yeah.
Because it's life altering,
It
is.
People.
I don't think about that little bitty baby laying there with 2 gunshot wounds in him.
Yeah, people don't understand, and they, like I say, they just think, okay, I saw this on a movie. This is going to be cool. And I've got a friend. You may know the guy's name. Do you remember a deputy here in Georgia that got shot? Kyle Dinkheller.
Yes, I do.
I'm good friends with his dad. I actually gave his dad a challenge coin I had gotten from the fire department that said, don't be a minimum. Because his dad takes that video all country to police academies and teaches young officers about don't take anything for granted, and he
Right.
breaks it down. And I've seen that video 100 times,
I
but
have too.
sitting there on the porch of my station when his dad came out to see me, and him sitting there telling me step for step in this video, it put a whole new light on it. It's like, holy shit, man, this is his dad, and he's telling me exactly. He said, okay, right here, here's when he was hitting the leg, and just, man,
And he didn't do anything wrong, you know?
yeah, yeah. And there's so many stories about it. And somebody told me one time, yeah, his sheriff had told him not to touch his gun on a stop again, and because he had been doing it and he hadn't been doing it. So many things out there about that aren't true, and I mean, it's
the environment today is with a lot of officers is if I pull my gun out, it's bad optics. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad I did my 30 plus years, but I don't know if I could do it again.
Yeah,
in this environment.
It would be some guys now who have been doing it forever, and they won out because of the way things are.
Yeah, because you're getting crushed, and it's just that the ambushes are what alarm me.
Yeah.
You're just driving along, you and me in our car, and all of a sudden we're getting nailed.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of that in Dallas. I know New York's seen a lot of it here lately. And shootings or deaths are way up. Go to Officer Down Memorial page. Shooting deaths are way up, and they're going to keep going up because it's okay to do it now.
Yeah.
And it's just all kind of wrong.
Yeah.
Plus, we kill ourselves in cars a lot. You know that.
Yeah. I have a friend that died in a car years ago.
Yeah, cops are goofy about just buckle your seatbelt and, don't try to do. And we do have to multitask. We have to talk on the police radio. We have to look at a computer. We have to drive, and it causes accidents.
Yeah.
And we drive too fast sometimes, or, for no good reason.
Yeah. Been there.
I did live PD with Dan Abrams when it first started. And they asked me to come up because I was retiring, and I was the kind of guy that could say anything I wanted and not get in trouble. And I never badmouthed my department or any department. But they said, what makes you qualified for this in my little audition? I said, I've been a cop for 30 years. If I haven't done it, I've seen it done or I've heard about it. You're not going to surprise me. But every once in a while, I would get a surprise. But I could at least explain things like a traffic stop. Dan would always, at the time, I think they do 12 departments now, but at the time they had 6 up there on the screens. And there'd be a traffic stop going, and the guy walks up, the officer, and he angles his car a certain way, and I can tell the audience why he does that. And then he tries to pull on the trunk, waiting for that guy to jump out, but he's also putting his thumbprint on the trunk in case he gets killed. And Dan would see lights and another in say Fort Walton Beach. He'd go, let's go to Fort Walton Beach. They got their lights and sirens on. And they'd go there and say, the producer sitting in the passenger seat would say, what's going on? He goes, oh, I'm out here in the county and there's an officer in trouble. We're about 15 minutes out. And I'd look at Dan like, okay, now what? What are we going to talk about for 15 minutes? You should let that traffic stop breathe, and we could let people learn about why cops do things. And there was another instance where a guy did a thing called a common peroneal strike to get a guy in the car. You knee somebody in the thigh.
Mm-hmm.
And he thought that was police brutality. And this guy gave this guy 2 pretty good chops in the knee, but you got to get him in the car. And we went to a commercial break, and he goes, that's it, Rich. That's police brutality. And when we come back, we're going to talk about police brutality. And I said, no, it's not. It's called a common peroneal strike. And I had my partner there with me, Kevin Jackson. And he goes, Kevin? He goes, yeah, it's taught in the academy. We just can't stand out on the road and fight with people. It's just a strike. It's not lethal. And it gets people in cars.
Yeah.
He goes, it's not brutality. But, I mean, it doesn't, to the passerby, it looks like bad optics. And I always thought that show would have been better. I mean, it was good, but it would have been better if they would have said, okay, Rich, stand up and do a strike on Kevin, or vice versa. Or why do handcuffs hurt so much? Because they're made out of steel. They're not built for comfort,
Yeah.
and searching
Yeah, be happy they're
techniques.
not pink and furry.
Say what?
Be happy they're not pink and furry.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true too. I did I'm not bragging or anything, but once you do Dallas SWAT, people think, okay, this guy Rich is probably one of the smartest SWAT guys in the world. No, I just happen to be on TV. The smartest SWAT guy is in Walker, Michigan, cleaning his guns right now, and he doesn't even have TV. He's the smartest guy. But since I was on TV, they would call me and they asked me to be in a movie called It was Trafficked. It's called Trafficked. The movie came out in 2017 with Ashley Judd. It's really a dark movie, but that was her thing. And they asked me to play an FBI agent, and I said okay. And I was arresting Patrick Duffy for being a congressman involved in human trafficking, and then a guy named Sean Patrick Flannery, and he's in Boondock Saints and on Netflix. And I handcuffed him, and it was just. Rich, just arrest him the way you would arrest. He came around the corner in a truck. I'd never met this guy in my life. Apparently, he's a big actor. And he came around the corner. We blocked him in. I jumped out, stuck a gun in his face. I had my little FBI blue jacket with yellow letters on it, and stuck a gun in his face. And I said, "Get out of the effing car!" And it scared him. And he couldn't get the door open. So I said, "Cover me." I had two other guys there, extras. I said, "Cover me." And I opened the door for him. And I pulled him out and I patted him down, handcuffed him, and we started walking towards the camera. And all this was ad lib. And walking towards these two huge Panavision cameras. And he looks at me. Well, he kind of bows up. And he's a good actor because that's what prisoners do. And I yanked down on those chains. And he goes, "Hey, man, these things kind of hurt." I go, "They're not built for comfort, motherfucker." And I walked him past the cameras. I hope I'm allowed to cuss. I walked him past the cameras and I started taking off his handcuffs. He goes, "Man, you really studied your craft." I said, "Are you okay, sir?" And he goes, "No, I'm fine." He goes, "You really studied your craft." I go, "What?" He goes, "I thought you were a cop." I go, "I am. I'm friends with the director." He goes, "Where are you a cop at?" I go, "Dallas." He goes, "Well, I'm from Katy, which is outside of Houston." He goes, "I thought that was pretty good. Ain't built for comfort, motherfucker." I go, "I say that probably once a week." They cut it out of the movie, though.
But yeah, like I said, I've been in two movies. Fled, which was an awesome movie, but their one fatal flaw, they opened on the same weekend as Independence Day.
That's not good.
No, so it kind of had a really slow open, and I was a background of one of the medics in a little independent movie out of Augusta called The Mark. It's probably been 10 years now.
Yeah.
But
we
I
talked
love doing
about
that
the other day when I talked to you, how we had to have paramedics on the set of all these Hollywood movies. So on my breaks, I'd hang out with firemen, shoot the breeze with them. They had, unless somebody fell out, they had the best job. You just got to watch actors and actresses do their thing.
It was great on Fled. We didn't eat with the cast, with the crew in the big tent in the middle of the field. Got the frozen hamburgers. We ate with the cast, and while I was waiting on my inch and a half to cook perfectly, I was standing out at a table eating prawns. I'm like, really? This is the life.
And where's the barbecue, you said?
Yes. Yes. I got to get you down here when you come to Atlanta. I got to get you here to the house to do the cooking show with me.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love me some barbecue.
Yeah. Oh, I do it all the time. And my first episode that I did was I did a Boston butt, and the sauce that I made, it's the first time I ever made that sauce. And oh man, it was great. It was a mustard based.
Yeah.
Actually, it was a hot sauce. And if I can cook with bourbon, I'm going to cook with bourbon. I love bourbon.
Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. But, no, I love doing barbecue.
I'm not a good cook because I drink bourbon while I cook, and I'll set the house on fire.
But if you drink enough, it don't matter. You just got to push through it. The great ones dig deep. Yeah. So what's your favorite bourbon if you had to pick one?
Oh man, give me some options. Because I'll embarrass myself with cheap bourbon names.
Oh, don't! I'm a cheap bastard. One of my favorites is Jesse James, the lead singer from Jackal. They've got a barrel strength out now. It's only available on like 5 stores here in Georgia, and it is amazing. It's so smooth.
And Macallan is bourbon, isn't it?
Can't remember if that's bourbon or Scotch. I
It's
have
a
never had
Scotch.
it.
I think it's a Scotch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. And they have the different years. There's a 12 and an 18. And I was with my dad, who was a big Scotch guy, and we went over to the Ritz-Carlton where I had an extra job, and he said, "Son, I can't afford this." He was dying of cancer at the time. I just wanted to give him a treat. We sat down at the bar in the middle of the afternoon, and Rachel, the bartender, came over and said, "What do you want?" And he goes, "I'll have a J&B neat." And she goes, "I'm not giving you that shit. You're having a Macallan 18 or 35 or whatever it was." She goes,
Yeah.
It's $200 a shot, and I'm giving you and Rich double shots. And he goes,
Nice.
I can't. I go, "Dad, she's not going to charge us." And he liked it so much, we went over to the Centennial Liquor, and I bought him a bottle. Of course, it's a lot cheaper at a liquor store.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I said, "What's the oldest Macallan you had?" And they mentioned the year. I said, "How much does it cost?" And they go, "Well, it's a special order if you want it, but it's $11,000 a bottle." I go, "No, I don't want it. But would you print that up so I can show it to my dad? Because he doesn't believe this stuff."
Damn. I know you can get some bottles of Pappy Van Winkle that are about like that.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. See, James is $16 for a 750, and
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah, and it's not being a cheap bastard. I just can't with bourbon and Scotch and even vodkas. I can tell a bad vodka sometimes. Sometimes they, ugh. And it's
Hammer and Sickle's really good.
Yeah, I've had that. But
Yep.
there was a guy, I went through the liquor store the other day, and there was a guy that had made his own vodka here in Texas. And, they're asking you to taste it. And I was nice, and I bought some. But, man, I thought I could gut out anything, but it was terrible.
Been there.
So I proved to myself I wasn't an alcoholic because I was out of vodka, and I wouldn't drink that stuff.
But yeah, I like the Jesse. I like Woodford. Woodford Reserve's good.
Yep.
And I've got my wife bought me a bottle of a for my birthday, and it was really good.
I'll have to try that. I haven't tried that yet. I've seen it.
Yeah, it's worth getting. I mean, it's like $30 a bottle, but it's pretty good.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, we got to get you down here, man. Like I say, I got bourbon, so we can sit and barbecue and have bourbon.
That's all I need, and fish maybe.
Oh, dude, right behind my cook shack is a 12-acre pond.
And you can keep all the fish. I love to fish, but I hate eating fish.
I understand.
No, you don't. My dad when we lived on Okinawa.
Oh, God.
He took us down to this thing called the market, and it was like squid hanging on ropes, still moving, and he would cut it off with his pocket knife and make me and my brother eat the original sushi. And all these girls here in Dallas, when I was a dating guy, I'm married now, but they love them some sushi. And I'd go, no. And when I've been tricked into eating it, I actually like it, but I have a mental block with sushi. But you can always find a good steak in a sushi place.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, can't do that one.
Yeah, I couldn't do raw oysters forever because my dad was a drill instructor back when they were really rough, back in the 60s.
Like when they beat people up.
Yeah, and he told me a story about some DIs who had a guy that they tried everything and couldn't get him in line. And some of them took him into a stairwell one night with a string tied around an oyster and made this guy swallow the same times.
And pull it out?
Yeah. It turned out to be the best soldier they ever turned out. But I'm like,
only a jarhead would think up that kind of torture.
Yeah. But I couldn't eat a raw oyster for a long time, and I finally did. I'm like, holy shit, who does this? Not saying my dad wasn't involved, but
go get me some fishing line. I'm gonna make this guy eat the same oyster.
Yeah, it makes me kind of proud, but kind of scared at the same time.
A Marine, and I love my Marines.
Oh, he was Army.
Oh, he was.
Yeah,
I love my Army guys.
Yeah, and what's funny is he did 3 tours in Vietnam, and I've got all of his paperwork from when he was in the Army, his DD-214, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he did 3 tours. 2 of them there are no record of.
Really?
And the pictures I have, He's wearing civilian clothes and Ray-Bans, always carrying a different weapon. He's an engineer.
Probably in this country called Laos.
Yeah, he earned 4 Bronze Stars during those. I can't find details on any of those, and it's really weird. And he died when I was young, so I never got to talk to him about it. Yeah.
You know, I hear you can go to squadron reunions, because I asked a guy from the History Channel, I said, where do you find these guys, you know, that were in battles in Vietnam? He goes, they're on the internet. They have reunions. And I just go find them and go to their reunions. So I'm trying to find, my dad got a Distinguished Flying Cross for flying people in his C-130 on a volunteer mission. It was like 3 trips, but it was 120 wounded dudes from a fight, I think in Anlock or somewhere. And I want to find and I'm in the process of finding them, and I'm going to go to their reunion in Vegas next year and go, I'd like to know who is wounded on this day, because my dad is the one who pulled you out. And I'm not doing it for accolades. My dad's gone. I just want to meet these guys.
Yeah. Yeah, find out what lives he touched.
Yeah. And how they did afterwards, you know. It's kind of like, you know, losing my girlfriend. I always wonder, and Chris too. You know, I lost both of them. And Kim, my friend that's helping me write a book, it's Kim Gatlin. She was Rudy Gatlin of the Gatlin brothers' wife. She said, you know, your girlfriend got killed in '83 and Chris got killed in 2013. Murdered, both of them, savagely. I don't know anybody that's happened to. And I said, well, and I wasn't being flip. I go, you don't know anybody that's ever been murdered? She goes, no. And I said, well, I was a cop for 30 years and 31 of my colleagues got murdered. Did I know everyone? I knew them by sight, kind of like a big high school. You know how that is.
Oh, yeah.
You know, several of them were dear friends. And multiply that 31 by about 3 or 4, and that's how many of them got shot and just crippled and hurt. And it was a savage business for a guy like me who grew up on a military base with a big fence around me, and I never saw anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, girl, see anything like we see on the street. I mean,
no.
It's an eye-opener.
Yeah, even if it's just a savage car wreck. You know, I remember pulling up with a guy one time, and a guy was trying to put his child's head back on her body. And this guy had pulled off the road to fix a flat, and his daughter got hit by a car, and he was in such shock. He was trying to put her head back on. And I was like, sir, it's okay. We got this. And and I'm sure you feel the same way. At the time, I didn't freak, but it catches up to you over the years, you know.
It does. Everything's a drop in the bucket, but at the time, it's hard to get
back up to do that bucket. Up, but I didn't freak. I didn't have any problem sleeping. But over the years, it just like piles up, you know. And if you don't talk to people about it, and I tell cops, talk to your friends if you feel sad and depressed, because we kill ourselves pretty often, just like military guys.
I've lost a lot of friends like that.
Yeah. And they just need to open up and go, you know, like I did to the Center for Brain Health or PTSD, and it helped. And I speak openly about it. I'm not afraid to.
Yeah.
I don't sit around paranoid, you know, thinking everybody's trying to kill me. I just have, and my wife does not help. I have a hell of a startle response. And when she sneaks up behind me and says, hey, I'm like, will you quit doing that?
Yeah.
It takes me 30 minutes to recover.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in talking, because when I was about 19, you know, I was a new EMT. I was the macho guy. You know, something bothers me, I'm not talking about it. Nothing bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
And one night I was laying in the bed, and the face of everybody I'd seen leave this world came to see me.
Boy, I don't even think about that.
I actually had my first pistol. It was a Norinco 9, and just an old, just 300-pound, made a high point look like a Glock.
Yeah.
And I actually had that thing in my mouth. And the only thing that saved me was about a 400-pound trigger pull, I think. But I'm sitting here trying to pull this. It's a $60 pistol. It was cheap.
You went cheap on that one.
Yeah, big time. But I just knew I was big and bad. But I stopped and I thought about it. I said, what the hell are you doing? And I learned really about it. And I tell all these young guys, don't try and be brave. I said, anybody that messes with you for talking about it is a jackass anyway.
They are. And I've talked to people, and I've been asked to talk to people by chiefs saying, hey, man, this guy's really having problems. We've disarmed him. We put him in, this job over here. And I'm like, hey, man, and they know who I am because I'm on a, department that was on a TV show. And I go, do you want to talk about it? They're like, nope. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I really think you should. And I just felt powerless because you can't make someone talk about it.
Yeah.
And fortunately, he's still around, but I don't know how he's doing. But I think the military, and I love my military people, they're the worst about trying to stay tough.
Yeah.
Because you got your ass kicked if you weren't tough back in the day.
Yeah.
And I think our department, like, say that shooting I was talking about with the little kid, I got one day off. And then I had to go see the psychiatrist, act like nothing was bothering me, and they sent me back to work.
Yeah.
And put me right, and I hate this phrase, put me right back on the horse. And I had to run a warrant the first day back on point. And that shooting happened so fast, I was so scared that I was going to shoot everybody in that house.
Yeah.
And a sergeant came up to me in the equipment room, and he goes, Rich, last Tuesday, the day of the shooting, he goes, and I'm not bragging at all. He was just being nice. He goes, you're not the fastest guy. You're not the best shot. You're not the quickest guy here and there, but you were the right guy to go into that room. And that was one of the bravest things I've ever seen. I go, no, it wasn't. I said, me coming back to work and running that warrant that was a dry hole with just one suspect in it scared the hell out of me.
Yeah.
And when they busted open the door, I was the first guy in. There was a guy standing there. I said, put your hands up. And I was so happy I didn't kill him.
Yeah.
I said, I was scared to death. So now, and I started talking to our psychological services people. I said, you can't do that to people. It's not right. So now, if you shoot somebody, you get 15 days off at home, paid. Then when you come back, you have 45 days of just, if you're in SWAT, you'll be out at the range setting up training. If you're in patrol, you'll be doing ancillary duties until you just feel like going back out. And I think that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
60 days of chilling out instead of less than 24 hours.
Yeah. I mean, the adrenaline had him worn off after 24 hours.
No. And, we get treated just like everybody else. You go to homicide, you get Mirandized, and they're nice. They're not mean to you or anything like that. And you go home and your spouse doesn't understand. And I tell this story to young troops. I said, you need to have friends that aren't all cops. And your spouse is never going to understand the stuff you see at work unless she's a cop or a firefighter or an EMT. I said, I came home from work one day after my lieutenant had been shot. And my wife, lovely Leanne, is stomping around the house and hasn't really paid attention to what happened to my lieutenant that day. And I go, what are you so mad about? She goes, I have to go out tonight and look at my hair. My roots are showing. I'm getting gray hair. Look at my part. And I've got a diet. And I looked at her and I said, oh, did anybody get shot at work today while you were modeling? Did anybody get killed? And I thought that was the right answer, but it's not. And I tell them now, if that happened again, I'd go, honey, we'll go get that bowl of dye and I'll help you dye your roots. Yep. Because she can't understand what it's like to watch your lieutenant get his throat cut open by a surgeon.
Yeah.
You just can't. You can't explain it to them because they watch too much TV. Cops watch too much TV.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm really lucky because when we got together, she became a volunteer firefighter and a first responder. So she gets it.
Yeah.
And I'm really lucky in that.
Those are few and far between, but they do get it.
Yeah.
But I was watching that Eddie Murphy movie where he gets out of jail with Nick Nolte. What's it called?
48 hours.
Nick Nolte gets in a huge shooting, gets his gun taken from him, and he's at the office 5 minutes later ordering another gun. No, it doesn't happen that way.
No.
And people think it does. And just having seen it, I keep my chin up. I don't feel sorry for myself ever. But You and I've seen some serious tragedy. We see the underbelly, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And the funny thing is the ways that you cope with it, you know. I went the route where, yeah, I'm going home and getting shit faced today. And
We've all
now
done that.
if I drink, I just drink a little bourbon here and there. Now I'm too old to deal with hangovers anymore.
You know, I know.
But you know, you play golf, you just do whatever, and it's
I work
weird.
on an arbor. I work in my backyard. I redo the deck. I just painted the front of the house. I just do things in my safe. I call it my green zone in my yard. It's got a 9-foot fence. Nobody can see in. It's got a pool. And if I'm mowing the lawn, I can just jump in the pool, jump out, and get back to work on whatever needs fixing.
Yeah,
And I just build stuff back there, and that's my safe place. Because
yeah.
they
That's
say in PTSD training, you become a frog, a lizard. You'll be on a log waiting for something to come eat you all the time,
yeah,
unless you can find a safe place or something that you like to do. I don't care if it's playing chess, learning how to dance, driving, working on cars. You know, I've got a lot of buddies that do that, redoing,
yeah.
different things, and you just have to have something besides going home and sulking. And we've all done the whole go home and drink thing. Every cop,
Oh yeah,
they're a liar if they say they haven't.
yeah,
If
yeah,
they're a real cop or a real firefighter, you know.
yeah. And
Because
that's why I've
you
got
can
my
get
cook
on a
shack.
fire, you can get on a fire department, you can get on a police department and do your 5 years of patrol and go hide in personnel for the rest of your career and not see anything.
Yeah,
And I don't look down on them. That's what they chose to do, and most of them do it so they can have days and weekends off. And I'm not
yeah,
hating. It's like we used to hate people in internal affairs, but I know a lot of real action guys that are internal affairs. I go, "Why'd you do that?" He goes, "Dude, I work 8 to 5 and I got weekends off. What do you have?" I go, "We got Tuesdays and Wednesdays off. I'm a 30-year veteran."
yeah, yeah. You're talking about a safe space. That's why I've got the cook shack down there.
There
That
you go.
that
That's your
actually
spot.
that's what sold this house to it.
That's so cool.
Where I was at, I had one of the little metal carports that had my grill and that kind of stuff under it. And when I had the strokes, it left me with a really bad stutter, really bad.
Really?
And yeah, oh, it was horrible. It still comes back once in a while, but not often. But I was under there one day and I was listening to Five Finger Death Punch as loud as I could and cleaning guns. And I said, we'll just do this for some therapy today. And my wife was out walking on our land, getting some exercise.
Mm-hmm.
I decided I wanted to hear a song. There's a guitarist. He's actually in Texas, Monty Montgomery.
I
And
don't
he did
know him, but I love me some music.
oh, he is amazing. You need to look him up. He did a remake of Romeo and Juliet from Dire Straits.
Really?
And yeah, he plays an acoustic electric. And in the solo, it sounds like three people are playing this guitar. And
Wow.
he is amazing. But I wanted to hear that, so I downloaded it and I was listening to it. And I had tried the singing thing because everybody said Mel Tillis can sing and he stutters. And it didn't work for me. But I'm sitting here cleaning 300 Win Mag at the time that I was cleaning. And I realized I was singing this song note for note, pitch perfect.
And not
And I
stuttering.
replayed it. Yeah, and I replayed it, and I started waving real frantically at my wife, and she ran over there thinking something was wrong. And I got to give her the first clear "I love you" I had given her in 4 months.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool.
And I made sure I let him know that. And he actually called me one morning, and that was amazing. He said I was going to I had to hear the voice.
That's so funny. It's not funny. It's a great story. I had a partner named Lance Crawford, and he wouldn't mind me telling you this. He rode around with me on when you get done with training in the police department, you ride around with the senior guy, and he was on what we call little training. And here I was, a salty 3-year veteran, and he just got off of training, and he stuttered like crazy. And
Yeah,
it was funny how many people not funny, it's ironic how many people you run into in police work that stutter when you have a partner that stutters. And I
yeah,
remember it was raining and we were driving down it was a downpour. And we saw this poor slob walking down the street and he goes, "Pull over, let's take that guy home." And he got in the car and I said, "Where do you live?" And he goes, he started stammering, and I mean, it was bad. He goes, I live
Mm.
up in, and it was an area called the Thicket. And Lance
Oh.
goes, he turns around, he goes, where in the thicket do you live? And he goes, are you making fun of me? I go, no, he fucking stutters worse than you.
I bet that was an amazing conversation.
Oh, are you kidding? We got another shots fired call, and this girl kept calling our police car saying, my brother says that the shots are coming from this area now. And we'd drive around, and then she'd call our squad car back. My brother says, and he goes, put your brother on. He goes, he's embarrassed because he stutters. He goes, I stutter. And she thought we were making fun of him, but we would pull people over, and there were certain letters, as you know, because I used to have a little stammer too. He said, he can't say his K's and his C's and his T's. And we have MDTs in our cars. And he could not say his S's either. So if somebody's license was suspended, that was a monumental task for him to say suspended.
Oh.
And he'd go, Rich, go check this guy. He goes, I'm going to go check this guy. And I'd sit there and talk to the suspect, and he'd come back to the car, and he goes, sir, you're going to have to get out of the car. We have to take you to jail. And he goes, why? He goes, your license is, I go, suspended. And I would start filling his words in for him. Or he'd go, go check this guy on the machine in the car. And I go, okay. He just coped. And it was, we got called to dispatch because at 2.5 years, you're eligible for dispatch. And we know Lance is not going to be because I asked him, I said, I don't know, how did you get on the department with such a stuttering thing? He goes, I don't know. I learned how to tap my foot and get like a beat.
Yeah.
And he goes, and that's it. Because he said, when I was a kid, I couldn't even speak, Rich. And I said, well, now we're going down to dispatch. They're not going to pick you because you still stutter. He walked out. And we drove off, and I go, how'd it go? He goes, they're going to pick me. I didn't stutter one time. I go, you're kidding me.
He's probably going to be a freaking supervisor.
And they called our lieutenant and said, we're taking Lance Crawford in dispatch. He goes, you can't. He stutters. And they go, don't lie. Nobody wants to go to dispatch. They said, don't lie for him. He goes, no, ma'am, he stutters horrifically. He just didn't today. And it was a big hoogabaloo, as they say. And he finally got cleared and he didn't have to go. But he's a good dude, great friend, one of my longest term friends in my life. Awesome guy. But every once in a while, I had it in high school, not to the point that I needed therapy or anything like that, but I'll stutter sometimes now. And people are like, are you stuttering? I go, yeah, it just comes out everywhere. And it's not particular letters like Lance's was.
Yeah.
I tell everybody I just have so much going on in my head, I can't talk that fast.
Yeah, mine I repeat things. The word home will get stuck, and I'll say the word home over and over like 2 minutes before I can finally break it. Yeah. I don't know why that word does, but it gets hung bad. when I was doing stand-up, I actually, whenever I would write a show, I'd have to write 2 shows. I wrote a normal one and a stutter.
Don't make me laugh.
Oh, dude, it was amazing. A week after I had the stroke, I got up on stage at my little home club in Augusta, Joe's Underground, and I said, dude, come on. I said, you're welcome on this stage anytime. We don't give a shit. And it was actually a funny show. And I was kind of shocked by that because I was expecting, okay, you're going to get up there and be there for 30 seconds and say, piss on this. But
yeah,
I just kind of learned to work with it, and it worked out.
Well, you could take any negative and make a positive. I got blinded in my right eye right before I retired training, and I was not a SEAL, but I was training with him, and I just got a torn retina in Virginia Beach and misdiagnosed. And I have a pirate patch now for the rest of my life because I have a thing called a macular pucker, which distorts my vision so much that I'll get sick to my stomach if I don't wear it. Yeah. And, I can take this lemon and make lemonade, I wish I would have had a patch in my 20s and 30s when I didn't know how to talk to girls because girls seem to think pirate patches are cool. Yeah, I haven't never heard that. I eat at Arby's. I wear Argyle socks. I've heard it all, dude.
Oh, man.
But they, people will come up to me. If somebody comes up to me and says, how'd you get blinded? and I'll just look right at them and go, "How did you get blinded?" And 9 times out of 10, they go fireworks, and they won't have a patch like a plastic eye or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And this sweet girl, I took my wife to a mani-pedi place a couple of weeks ago, and beautiful girl behind the desk. I'm waiting on my wife to come out. She goes, "How'd you get blinded?" I go, "How did you get blinded?" And she goes, "How did you know I was blind?" Because she doesn't have a patch on or anything. She
Uh-huh.
goes, "I'm blind in my left eye, and they don't know why. I was walking my dog with my dad when I was like 3 out in the woods, and they think I fell on a broken bottle, and I cut my pupil, and I haven't been able to see out of it since."
Mm.
And they, you just learn to adapt. And people are like, "Do your other senses take over?" And I go, "Listen, I'm deaf in my right ear. I'm blind in my right eye. I'm halfway to being Helen Keller." But I noticed over the last 6 years, other things do take over. So if I'm in my office and there's a kitchen between my office and where my wife can come in, and she's not a big girl, but when she walks through the door, the overpressure in the room changes, and I can feel it in my skin. And I
Nice.
can turn around, and she'll go, "How did you know I was here?" I go, "You changed the air pressure in the room when you walk in." Because I teach
Of
explosives and
course.
I teach about overpressure. And you know all about that, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I've probably been a victim of it. And I tell my
Yeah.
students when I teach explosives, I said, "I'm overpressuring your ears right now just by talking." But I tell them that story about my wife can walk in a room and or the dog can walk through a doorway 20 feet away, and I can just, my back's to them, I can feel the air pressure move.
Yeah.
So other things do compensate, but you got to make lemonade out of any lemon. I've never pour mead about the patch. I miss seeing people. I'd love to see you in stereo, you know.
Yeah.
I tell
Yeah.
people that all the time, and my wife gets mad when her cute friends come over and I start touching their face, saying, "Are you still as pretty as I remember?" And she's like, "You're not blind in both eyes, you asshole."
Well,
So
has
she ain't,
anybody asked you this question?
what?
On the day of training, was it all fun and games up to that point?
It was a slow process because, and don't shoot your eye out. It started. I was the kid who got shot in the eye with a BB gun when I was 14.
Yeah.
And I had a traumatic cataract in my right eye that started growing. And I just became a left eye dominant shooter. Now I could shoot a rifle right handed because I am right handed if I had optics.
Mm.
But I have the BB went through my iris and through the back of my eye. And me and my brother lied about it because we didn't want to lose our BB guns. And
Of
said I got
course.
hit in the face with a rock from a wrist rocket. And I spent a week in the hospital in Sacramento. And when I got out, I went in the bathroom and I'm looking at my eye because it was completely lights out. The
Mm.
BB went in at the lower part of my iris. There's a little slice. And then it went through the back of my eye above my optic nerve, and it bled over my optic nerve. So I couldn't see for about a year and a half.
Mm.
And I'm in the bathroom looking at my eye when I first got out of the hospital, and I pulled my lower eyelid down, and there it was, a rusted BB that had been in my eye all week. And I went
Oh.
into my mom. I said, "Mom, me and Joe lied." And she was mad. The doctor was mad. My dad was mad. I mean, how can you yell at a kid who's blind? But still.
Yeah.
So I had
I
this
actually have a
traumatic cataract forever, and I finally got it removed 13 months before I went to go train, and it weakened my retina. So I was shooting this 40 millimeter grenade launcher called the Platform, tore my
mm,
retina and just got misdiagnosed. And what are you going to do?
man. Yeah. Well, oddly, BB, I have a little vial in the house that has a rusty BB in it. It came out of the end of my finger
Really?
when I was 14.
That that sounds painful.
Yeah. It was one of those little CO2 pistols.
Yeah.
And I went to cock it and had my finger in front of the barrel and it just went boop. And I didn't even know the BB was still in there. And like 20 years later, my finger was hurting really bad. And I went to the doc with it. And he said, "Yeah, this has been in there for a long time. It moved and it's infected now. So I don't have a tip on one of my fingers where he took that out." I said, "I
Really?
need to keep that." But yeah.
Yeah, I have a buddy, two buddies. Well, Lance the stutterer and my other buddy, Scott Eggleston, they got shot in the face with birdshot going in on a call.
Uh-huh.
And it was one of those calls where the dope dealer answered the door. They stuck their foot in the doorway so they couldn't shut it. And somebody behind the guy at the door, blasted both of them in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God missed their eyes and got Lance in the arm pretty bad, but got Scotty in the face a bunch. And thank God his eyes didn't get hit. But I was at his house like 5 years later, and he goes, golly, and he starts digging at his forehead, and he pulls out a birdshot, and he grabs this pill bottle that has like 20 bird shots in it, and he dumps it in there, and he goes, hey, I can wear my baseball hat again, because that thing hurt when I put my hat on. I mean, he just made that lemonade. I mean, it was fun.
Nice. Nice.
Not funny when he got shot, though.
Yeah.
Some things you can't, I was talking to Chris Kyle one time. I said, there are just some things you can't make funny. He goes, like what? I go, dead babies. And he started laughing. And I go, Chris, that's wrong. Can't make dead babies funny. He goes, you just did by saying that. I'm like, I'm trying to. And listen to you laugh.
Yeah, you're killing me. Yeah, I remember I can find funny in some dark places. At my dad's funeral, I was 10 years old, and I told the mortician a joke. And I walked up to him, and they were fixing to walk in the funeral. I said, do you know what one casket said to the other? And he's all serious, looking at this little boy who just lost his dad. I said, what, son? I said, is that you coughing? And just started laughing. He looked like he wanted to just kill me.
There's something wrong with you. Dark. You know that, right?
Oh, I know this. You ain't the first one. It won't be the last.
I know because I'm one of you.
Exactly. It's like I was reading a book, Dick, I can't think of his last name. It's about Delta Force.
Mm-hmm.
And, he was talking about one guy that he knew that was a great operator, but just despised jumping out of airplanes.
Yeah.
And if you hate it so bad, why do you do it? He said, because I like hanging out with the kind of guys that like it. And I get that.
We have that in SWAT with rappelling. Some people just hate rappelling.
Yeah. Normal rappelling, so I'm good all day.
You guys do it more than we do in the fire department. We don't ever do it, but golly, we sure practice it a lot.
Yeah, Australian and inverted, yeah, you can keep that shit.
Yeah,
I'm
both
good. I don't want a big bag.
We've both done it, but it's not fun.
Yeah. Like I said, normal rappelling don't bother me a bit, but yeah, you going down face first or upside down, I'm good. You keep natural. It. No.
And not necessary.
Not a bit. So, when we had talked earlier, you told me about your girlfriend, and I've got my wife and my two daughters. I made sure I teach them situational awareness. They got their own weapons, and I think that your girlfriend's story can help to kind of push that idea home with a lot of people. I believe that everything's got a purpose.
Yeah. Like I told you the other day, we both went to school in Denton, Texas, and we went home for spring or Christmas break in '83. She went to Las Vegas. Her dad was a pilot in Nellis, and my dad was flying out of Fairchild Air Force Base. And she went jogging about 4:00 in the afternoon on December 30th and never came home. And they, started looking for her, and a construction worker found her on December 31st out kind of in an unincorporated part of the desert, and she'd been kidnapped, raped, and murdered. And they called my dad. There's no such thing as a person of interest. I was a damn suspect because I was her boyfriend. No, I was sitting there with my dad on December 31st, and the phone rang, and I heard my dad say, Major Emberlin. And he said, yeah, he's been here since the 15th. We want to talk to him. And he said, son, some detective in Vegas wants to talk to you. And I'm like, what's that about? And I was basically a suspect because I was the boyfriend, and they were just making sure I was where I was at. And he said, there's no easy way to tell you this. Your girlfriend, Diana, got killed. And they wouldn't give me the details because I was a suspect. I later found out that she had been kidnapped into the desert and raped and stabbed 7 times up her right hand side and killed. And her father called me a couple days later and he's like, Rich, I don't know where to bury my daughter. And he was a destroyed man. I was a destroyed guy myself.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if you get choked up. But he said, I don't know where to bury my daughter. We're Air Force families. I said, bury her here in Denton. That's where all her friends are. So she's buried in Denton, Texas, not far from me.
Mm-hmm.
And he pretty much drank himself to death. The mom's still alive. Brother's still alive. He just finished an Air Force career.
Mm-hmm.
And I pestered the homicide department in Las Vegas. I became a cop because I couldn't be a pilot because of my BB gun injury. And I thought, you know what? Maybe I can help prevent some more Dianas and do it in Dallas and serve my country that way. And became a cop. And I was out in Vegas 6 years after it happened. And I opened up my window. I was downtown and I saw Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I thought, I'll go over there and see if they ever found out who killed my girlfriend. Because we didn't have the internet back then. You know, it's 89 right now. And I walked in and the receptionist was there. And I said, I want to talk to somebody about a murder. And she said, okay.
That's a way to get attention.
Boy, I got a ton of it. Because I didn't know they had just reconstructed the crime about 2 weeks before I got there and played it on TV. And it was called The Jogger Killer. And they were just trying to jog people's memories, no pun intended. And they had been replaying it, so it was pretty infamous. And she goes, which murder? And I said, well, it was my girlfriend. Her name's Diana Hanson. And I swear to God, I think she pressed a red button under the desk because I was looking at 2 of the biggest homicide detectives I've ever seen in my life coming off an elevator because they think I'm there to confess.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, before we get started, now I'm a 2-year officer. I'm just a rookie. I said, guys, before we get started, I'm out here to confess my name. They go, what's your name? I go, Rich Emberlin. And I showed them my badge. They go, you're a cop now? I go, yeah. He goes, this is Dan Dillard. And I said, nice to meet you, Dan. He said, I'd never met him. And he goes, come on upstairs. We'll show you the case file. And we'll show you about this guy who called in, who came out from Dallas to see his brother and work with him for a little while on a construction project when this killing happened. And he said they watched that reconstruction on TV. And his brother, Charles Peacock is his name. And I'll say it because he's dead and he's a turd. And both of them are dead now. Wayne, the guy that snitched on him, is too. He said, my brother started crying during that reenactment and said he had something to do with that murder. And I looked at my brother, who is a scumbag, and I saw because they brought him down. I got to read that whole transcript. And he said, I looked at my brother and he said, I don't want to talk about it anymore. And the detective said, why was your brother in Dallas? And he said, well, he didn't have a job and I got a construction job, but he left on the 31st and got in trouble because he didn't show up for work when they went back to construction. And that made sense to them why he would leave town. And they said, well, what kind of car did he drive? He goes, kind of a trick question. They go, he said, he drove a truck. And they go, really? He goes, yeah, and it was really funny because he had big, fat, wide tires on the back and skinny ones on the front. And that's the kind they found at the scene. And you know as well as I do, you can't take an athletic girl running down the road and you have a knife and have her get in your car by yourself. And I really believe these 2 idiots were out to rape her. Charles Peacock was driving. The other guy's name is Jonathan Peterson. He's dead too. He died of drug overdose in 93. And I think Charles said, there she is or whatever. And Jonathan got out and grabbed her. They drove her out to the desert and Jonathan raped her. He did. They found his DNA. And I think Charles said, okay, I was all about the rape part, but he just killed her, dude. And he drove off.
Yeah.
It's just what I suppose. And his brother said, be careful of my brother because he killed a guy in Dallas and the cops are so afraid of him, they didn't even arrest him. So I came back to Dallas because they had called our homicide office and they were too busy to help find out about this. So I just went down to homicide. One of my friends had been hurt in a car wreck and he was working light duty down there. And I said, can you show me the old 1984 shootings, murders. And he goes, yeah, they're in boxes in there. And I found his case file, and he had killed
Mm-hmm.
somebody in a bar where he was bartending, and a guy came in with a shotgun, and he had a shoulder holster on and shot and killed. I guess the guy had a beef with him. He shot
Mm-hmm.
and killed him, and he got no billed. He did go to jail for 3 months, though, but he was trying to be tough with his brother, like, I'm a
Oh yeah.
badass. No, nobody even wanted to arrest me. Yeah, he got arrested. He just got
Yeah.
no billed. So everything was adding up. And all these years, I just knew that Peacock had something to do with it. And I
Yeah.
looked for that guy. He'd been arrested 56 times. Long story short, I was looking for another address one day, and my buddy came up, goofiest cop I know, and he said, "You still looking for that guy that killed your girlfriend?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "How many places you been to?" I said, 56. And he said, "Have you checked to see if he's in jail?" And the guy had been 2 floors above me the whole time in a cell
Oh.
because he had committed a murder robbery and was going to go to prison for the rest of his life. And
Mm-hmm.
I told Detective Dillard, if I found him, I'll call him. And he said, we'll be out the next day. And the county runs the jail, so I had to go find a county guy. I'd never been upstairs. I'll never forget, the cell was called 2P11, and it had like 10 guys in it. And he had
Mm-hmm.
been shot while he was robbing this guy that he killed. And he was in like the medical section, but he could walk. And I walked up there because I just wanted to make sure he wasn't released on technicality before these guys flew out.
Yeah.
And I walked up, grabbed the little phone on the cell, and I said, "Charles Peacock, come to the phone." And this guy walked up. He looked like the Antichrist to me. And I said, "Are you Charles Peacock?" He goes, "Yeah, who cares?" I go, "You'll find out tomorrow." And I just hung up the phone. I didn't want to
Yeah.
taint the case or anything, or give him time to think about it. And they came out, and he went to the interrogation, and when they started asking for blood and hair, he panicked and he said, "I want a lawyer." And,
Mm-hmm.
that shuts it down.
Yeah.
And they said, "Rich, we're not going to be able to build a case." And DNA was new back then. I can't believe they kept the DNA that was in her, but they kept it in a refrigerator because 83, they didn't use DNA in cases. The
Yeah.
first time it was even invented that they could was by a British guy in 84, and the first case was proved in 85. So
Mm-hmm.
now we're at 89, but he still won't give up a sample. And they use about 200 markers, and I'm not, you know more about genealogical stuff than I do, but they use 200 markers on a standard DNA case. So
Mm-hmm.
when DNA did get developed, they ran her case through CODIS. And
Mm-hmm.
that's, the combined whatever DNA thing was like APHIS, automated fingerprint identification system. It's everybody's DNA that's a criminal out there. And they
Mm-hmm.
didn't get any hits. And they certainly would have, because this Peterson guy had been to prison before. And I don't know if they do it in Nevada. In Texas, if you go to prison, when you leave, they take DNA from you just in
Yeah.
case you do something else stupid. And they didn't take any of Peacock's DNA because he was dying of cancer, and they let him out like 2 days before he died.
Yeah.
And he had himself cremated.
No, that was
But
sweet of him.
yeah, that was nice of him. But if you can find a, a relative, and I found a niece in Colorado, they said, we can get her DNA and approach her from the standpoint, in this company that created this new technology is called Othram, and they're in the Woodlands, Texas, which is just north of Houston. And this guy, Dr. David Middleman, and his wife Kristen are both PhDs, and he created like 2,000 markers.
Mm-hmm.
And they started solving cases years ago, and they even solved an 1881 murder case where
Holy crap.
they exhumed a body, found the dead guy, and found DNA from the suspect. And they found distant relatives and made a match. But I mean, it didn't
Mm-hmm.
matter. Everybody's dead.
Yeah.
But I was teaching in Fargo, and this homicide guy said, Ancestry.com, we've caught so many rapists on Ancestry.com that put their DNA out there. He goes, and we've actually exhumed some bodies with DNA that we found on murderers. And I was thinking, you're kidding me. So in I don't know anything about this company called Othram. I love them, and I can't ever thank them enough. I'm going to go see them next week, but
Mm-hmm.
they were working with this guy named Justin, who's a multimillionaire who's working with Las Vegas PD, and it cost $5,000 a pop to send a sample off. And I talked to
Mm-hmm.
one of our homicide guys, and he said it costs about $650 to just do the 200 marker one, but he didn't know about this new technology either. And he started sending them a lot of money, and they were doing their cold cases, and they solved a 47-year-old case. They solved that 1881 case. They solved a case over here in Fort Worth that was a couple years old. Well, they came across a case. I can't remember the girl's last name, but her first name was Kim, who got killed in Las Vegas in 1979, and got this Peterson guy's DNA off him, but he's already dead. And I had called. That happened a couple months ago, last year, and I had called this new cold case lady because, like I said, Dan Dillard said, "Quit calling me. We're never going to solve the case." But I kept calling, and he handed me over to this new lady, Terry Miller, who's very nice, great detective. She said, I saw that 79 case, and it was close enough to your girlfriend's case, so we submitted her DNA and got an exact match and solved it after 38 years.
Oh man, that is awesome.
It really is. And she sent me a really nice email saying, "Thank you for keeping this, on our minds and in the forefront." And I mean, I didn't have anything to do with her getting it solved. They would have solved it, but her mom got some closure. Her brother got closure. I hate that phrase, but I did too,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it just, if she would have just had some situational awareness, and I go out and I watch women jog in my neighborhood, and they got their earbuds in and their heads down, and they're just dying to be victims, literally.
Yeah.
You got to keep your head on a swivel.
Yeah, and what tickles me is we can go out to eat somewhere, and I almost have to fight with my wife to get my back to the wall. She will not sit with the door, and that makes me so proud.
My wife's not a cop, so she's like, "Why do you always do that?" I go, "So I can kill whoever comes in here."
Exactly. I think one of my favorite quotes is, "Be nice to everybody, but have a plan to kill them."
Yeah, General Mattis. I used to have that was my signature block. Be polite and professional, but have a plan to kill everybody you meet.
Yep, exactly.
It made me take it down off the signature block, but it's true. I mean, that's our world, though.
Yeah.
You and I walk up to everybody with, "Okay, what's this character up to?" And within 5
everybody's
minutes,
got an angle.
Yeah, and within 5 minutes, we know they're harmless.
Yeah.
But within 2 minutes, we might go, "Keep an eye on this dude, bro," because he's nuts.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when Chris Kyle got killed. He was texting his buddy in the truck with him, and the guy was in the back seat, Eddie Routh, that killed him. And I was supposed to go with Chris that day to the range because the kid's mom was his son's teacher's assistant and said, "Hey, I understand you help wounded veterans, from Walter Reed. Kind of you talk to them and you take them to a range and they kind of feel like they get their nuts back, for lack of a better phrase. Would you please talk to my son? And he's the only person we never vetted." And he called me and he said, "Hey, man, I got to take this troubled Marine to the range and talk to him." He goes, "Will you go with me?" And I go, "Dude, February 2nd of 2013 is my daughter's last eligible daddy-daughter dance. And I'm taking her and another girl who doesn't have a dad, and I'm getting the hotel suite, and we're going to go to the dance." He goes, "Oh, shit, I guess you can't go." I said, "Take Chad with you." And Chad ended up getting killed too.
Yeah.
But, I don't think I could have saved Chris, but Chad wasn't a military guy or anything like that. But if you and I were taking somebody like that and you're texting me things like, "This guy's crazy, watch my back," I'm going to watch your back.
Yeah, big time.
And the shooting happened pretty fast. And if you ever watched the movie about Chris, at the very end of the movie, before he goes out of the house, he comes into the kitchen with a Navy Colt pistol, and he cocks it, and he tells Taya, his wife, drop them panties real slow. And then she's like, "There's something wrong with you," and he decocks it, puts it on top of the refrigerator. Well, it was a Navy Colt that he was carrying. I don't think Mr. Eastwood knew that, or Bradley Cooper, and I got to meet all them at the premiere. But somebody had given him a Navy Colt that week, and he was playing with it all week. And I go, "You gonna put that thing behind glass?" He goes, "Nope, I'm shooting it this week, and I shoot guns. I don't put them behind glass." I said, "Okay, whatever." And that, ironically, was the kind of gun he was shooting, and he fired it 6 times, and he actually had a 45 on his hip, semi-automatic one. Chris did. The kid didn't have any, but there were guns laying on a table. And as soon as Chris emptied out that 45, he picked up a 45 that was laying on the table and shot Chris up his right side. And last one got him in the chin, and it hung a left on his jawbone and snapped his spine. And then, poor Chad, he's not trained for stuff like that. And he actually had defensive wounds through his palm, where he had his hands up going, probably don't shoot me too. And then he had a bunch of bullet holes in his back, and then a coup de grace in his face. But it's all about situational awareness. Chad didn't have it. God bless him. I'm not beating him up. I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking him. I'm not Monday morning, Diana. What are the odds that that's going to happen?
Yeah.
But I see these people. When I was in New York doing live PD, I'd watch these women. Nobody wants to be bothered, and men don't really wants to be bothered. So they put their earbuds in, put their head down, or get their beats on, and that just screams, "Come kick my butt and take my wallet."
Yeah, exactly.
And and I had a female lieutenant, and I said, I used to brag on her. I said, "Ma'am, you walk around with your head on a swivel like you want to kick somebody's butt," and I think that's great.
Yeah, one of my paramedic instructors, if she was 5 foot tall, it's a miracle. And she actually teached the FBI as medics. And she came walking up the sidewalk one day. We were out front, smoking before. She just had this attitude with her walk. She should have been wearing a T-shirt that said "fucking A."
Yeah, come get some of this.
Yeah, it was just beautiful.
Yeah, no, I'll stop a woman and say, "You know what? You're doing all the right things," because that just drives me crazy. I mean, I live in a decent neighborhood, but people have been killed in my neighborhood.
Yeah, I've ran bad stuff in great neighborhoods as well as the ghetto.
Vice versa, yeah. But that's that story. I mean, it was tragic. But after 38 years, just this past month, December 6th, she called me and said that murder's solved, and I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and I imagine that was like a weight just being thrown off.
It was the happiest, saddest moment of my life.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know words.
And if her story can make it where one of my listeners does, with their back to the wall, does pay attention to where they're at now, it's worth it.
And that's what I told Amy Robbins, the lady who developed those running pants that are beefed up around the waist, so women that know how to carry guns can carry guns in their waistband.
Yeah.
But I tell guys and girls, my wife has a friend who has a pink pistol, and she shot it 15 times. I said, "You've got to practice with that thing, and you've got to be willing to shoot somebody with it, not just display it, because they'll take it away from you and feed it to you."
Yeah.
And it's just a combat mindset that I try to put into my wife and anybody that'll listen. Back to your have a plan to kill everybody you meet. I don't think we're going to be assholes to everybody, but you should have a plan for everything.
Exactly.
I'm sitting in my living room right now, and I have 3 escape routes if something happens.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sitting here with a pistol in my hand, but I know where one's close.
Exactly.
And that's just how we think now. And I never thought like that growing up. I was a kid, I was an Air Force brat. But I've seen enough people get killed and hurt And I tell everybody, when you sit down somewhere, I even told them in their podcast, I have 2 escape routes in case one of y'all loses your mind. And they thought
Yeah.
it was funny, but it's true.
Yeah, like when you come down here for the cooking show, I guarantee I'm going to be sized up, and you will too. And we're not going to take it personal. It is what it is.
And I'll say, put that giant fork down for a minute so I can shake your hand.
Exactly.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Oh, dude, this is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I told you I got to get out that way because I got to go see a buddy in Brunswick. So I'll probably be out there sooner than later.
Hey, all you got to do is make the call, man. I'll have everything ready.
Roger that.
Yeah. But yeah, you'll get a kick out of this. You know, when I bought when my kids were small, I taught them to shoot when they were like 8. And I bought them one of the 22 caliber cricket rifles.
Yeah.
Just little gun. And I told them, I said, find a target online and print it out. My youngest daughter, she is me made over. I'm getting paid back so bad with this child. She's going to be 19 next month. She the target of a monkey bent over, and the bullseye was his butthole.
Oh my God.
From about 30 feet, the first time she shot, nothing but net. She didn't even hit the ink around it. I'm like, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, that's awesome. My wife wants me to help her shoot, and I've tried. And I go, honey, I said, I don't know if we should do this. I said, we might get you a taser or something else. I said, I'm going to come home late one night, and you're such a terrible shot. You're just going to paralyze me and not even kill me. And I'll be in a wheelchair, blinking once for yes, twice for no, and using a straw to get around. I said, we might have to dial this back a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to get you some pepper spray. How's that sound?
I teach OC. I got her some of that.
Yeah. But I'd rather get hit with OC than a taser any day of the week. Whoever invented a taser's going straight to hell.
Yeah, when you're in taser class and they say, okay, we're going to go out to the range, void your bowels and bladders, you know it's going to be bad.
Yeah, and it's funny. All of our officers here know that I despise the taser. I tell them I'd rather you point your gun at me. And
go that far, but
we'll be standing there talking, and they'll just kind of ease theirs out of their holster and pop the cartridge off of it and just hit it for a dry stun just to make the sound.
Yeah.
And it just tears me up every time. I'm like, oh, dude, shit. And they just think it's hilarious.
I teach OC spray, and I'd rather get tased because it's over in 5 seconds if they only give you one ride, and you don't have to spend an hour decontaminating your face and then going home, taking a shower, and having recontaminate your face because it's in your hair. So there's 2 schools of thought on that.
Yeah. Well, you see, OC hot because I love hot stuff anyway. I'm the guy that's eaten the Reaper before.
No.
But yeah, dude, the lightning sucks.
I teach chemical agents and OC, and I hate the smell of that stuff more than anybody.
Mm. Yeah.
I've been tased. I know what it feels like. I don't need to be tased again.
Yeah, I'm good.
I don't need to be shot by my M4 to know that bullets hurt.
Exactly.
I do think officers do need to be OC sprayed and tased so they don't abuse prisoners,
Oh, yeah.
Because it's all big fun, but, guns are different. You don't need to be shot by a bullet to know that it'll kill you.
Yeah.
But OC spray, you can really blind somebody, and tasing can be very abusive. And that's one of the points I make in my classes. You can't use this stuff as punishment. You might be mad as hell, but one tase, and if they're in handcuffs, they're good.
Yeah. Like my father-in-law in the military, he was an MP and he trained dogs. And he was telling me that's one of the most cruel things in the world to do. They just get the dog like 3 feet from a suspect and the dog just trying to kill him, and terrifying this poor guy that's cuffs.
So I got clamped on by one of our canines one time. I won't show you my scar because part of it's my butt cheek, and the other two holes are in the upper part of my hamstring. And I knew this dog, and I knew the handler, and I knew the dog spoke German, and I took 4 years of German in high school, and I couldn't come up with one German word to get that damn thing off me until she walked up and got it off me. Now, thank God, it just sunk its teeth in me and didn't do the rip and tear stuff, but
Yeah.
it wasn't used to SWAT officer BDU uniforms.
Yeah.
They were used to patrol pants, and our patrol pants had this gold roping going down the line or down the side of the legs.
Mm-hmm.
And we were looking for a suspect in the woods, a bank robbery suspect in a homeless encampment, and it was off its long leash, and I kind of fell back down this hill towards it, and it just clamped.
Oh.
And man, it's like somebody grabbing your nose or your junk. You just freeze. And I was like, I know what dog this is. I speak German, and I can't even come up with Auf Wiedersehen.
Nice.
That hurt.
Yeah. Oh man, well, dude, I've kept you on here for damn near 2 hours.
Well, that's fine with me, man. I had a good time.
Yeah, I've had a
again.
blast. Definitely, and you know you're welcome here anytime. You got the number. All you got to do is call. Say, hey, fat boy, break out the butt. I'm coming.
I would never say that.
Oh man.
I say the last half, but
Oh yeah.
But I'll give you a call when I get close to getting out that way. Okay.
And I'll send you this link when I get posted.
All right. Thank you for everything, man. I had a good time.
Thank you. Me too. You take care.
Be safe out there.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.